this part of the series, I'll be going over the many bosses of Bloodborne. Starting with the main story bosses, followed by the DLC bosses, and then finally the Chalice Dungeon bosses. Our first boss of the main story bosses is the Cleric Beast. The plague that has stricken Yharnam has left many of Yharnam's residents in various states of transformation into all manner of savage beasts. But the Cleric Beast is undoubtedly one of the largest malformed beasts that hunters are bound to encounter. This creature's emaciated form belies its immense power, and its piercing cry will make even a hardened hunter think twice. The Cleric Beast bears that name because of a rumor according to which members of the clergy in Yharnam transform into this kind of monster. Among the humans turned beasts by the plague, it's one of the biggest. Preparation. Firstly, stock up on blood vials, quicksilver bullets, and Molotov cocktails before facing the Cleric Beast. If you've obtained the Saw Hunter badge from the Boar Tunnel, you can also buy a full load of knives. Oil urns will amplify the damage from Molotovs and are particularly effective in this fight due to the Cleric Beast's weakness to fire. A few can be found throughout central Yharnam, and collecting them is well worth it. If you don't already have a weapon that inflicts bonus damage against beast-type enemies, you can purchase one from the shop after obtaining the Saw Hunter badge. Or pick up a saw spear by the dry dock. A little extra defense never hurts either. If you're still wearing your starting equipment, you can replace it with the Yharnam Hunter set from the shop, or the slightly better Hunter set found in the Aqueduct. Search Central Yharnam for bloodstone shards before the battle to upgrade your weapons. And don't hesitate to spend those spare blood echoes on a couple of levels. Even a small increase to your overall strength can make a difference. Note that you won't be able to level up until you've returned to the Hunter's Dream with Insight. You can earn one by encountering Cleric Beast or Father Gascoigne, or by gathering Madman's knowledge, two of which are located in central Yharnam. Overview. You'll face the Cleric Beast at the far end of the Great Bridge spanning central Yharnam. It attacks with straightforward claw swipes, slams, lunges, and leaps, and becomes more aggressive when health drops below 70%. When this boss moves slowly, its lunging attacks cover long distances, and its horizontal swings have considerable range. Additionally, many of its attacks have heavy forward momentum and will hit you even if you try to evade by backing away. The Cleric Beast uses no magic or projectiles of any kind. Its only means of hitting you at a distance are its jump attacks and forward lunges. Strategy. The Cleric Beast's head and all four of its limbs can be injured separately. Stunning it and giving you a few seconds to pile on additional attacks its wounded limbs will also take 50% more damage. Hitting its head with gunshots, thrown weapons, or melee attacks will stagger it, allowing you to inflict heavy damage with visceral attacks. It will eventually heal damaged parts to its body, restoring their defense to normal, but also allowing you to injure them again. The Cleric Beast is highly weak against fire, and will take heavy damage from Molotovs, especially if you hit it with an oil urn first. Its head also takes double damage, so you can douse it in oil and then hit it in the face with a Molotov to cut a huge chunk of its health off. Weapons and damage bonuses against beasts such as the Saw Cleaver and the Saw Spear are very effective to this boss. Environment. The boss area is a long, narrow bridge littered with rubble and abandoned horse-drawn carriages. The smaller carriages will be destroyed if the Cleric Beast hits them with any of its attacks, giving you a little more room to maneuver. If you run out of ammunition, a corpse at the far end holds 10 quicksilver bullets. It's very easy to get backed into a corner and end up fighting in close quarters, which puts you at a severe disadvantage. So try to fight using the full length of the bridge to keep a safe distance between yourself and the boss when you're not attacking. Old Hunter summons. Old Hunter, Father Gascoigne. Summoned by the fountain past the burning effigy the townsfolk gather around. Requirement. And this works before you initiate the Father Gascoigne boss battle. But after you start the boss battle against him, he can no longer be summoned for this fight. Old Hunter Alfred. Summoned by Gilbert's house down the stairs shortcut from Central Yarnum Lamp. Requirement. You must have spoken to Alfred and agreed to cooperate with him. If you shift time into night, Alfred moves to his new position outside the Forbidden Woods. His summon sign will disappear and won't be available for this boss fight. Notes. During Cleric Beast grab attack animations, damage cannot be reduced by repeatedly pressing buttons. Despite the Cleric Beast having 999 slow poison and rapid poison resistances, it is still vulnerable to such status. All enemies and bosses, except hunter enemies, have 999 frenzy resistance. And despite that, they are all still vulnerable to such status. The only way to see it without modding is to use Shaman Bone Blade on enemy inflicting frenzy to attack others. After you defeat the boss, Great Bridge Lamp will appear, which will allow you to warp back to the Hunter's Dream. You can summon NPCs, Father Gascoigne or Alfred, Hunter of Filebloods, for this boss fight. Attack patterns. Phase 1. 1, 2, slam. Slams left arm on the ground in front of it, jumps forward and slams right arm. Roll forward through it. One-armed grab. executed with the left arm, slow wind up, roll behind it, or quick step backwards. Overhead slam combo. Quicker version of the overhead smash with up to 3 hits. Quick step forward past it. Lunging swipe. Lunges forward and swipes a wide frontal arc with its left arm. Quick step forward or to the right. Recovery. Surrounds itself with a red aura and heals its injured limbs or head. Repairs body damage but no HP. Attack patterns. Phase 2. Two-armed grab. Slower wind up. Strafe or quick step backwards. Double slam combo. Slow 3-hit combo ending with a downward slam. Quick step in any direction. Slow overhead smash. Delayed ground slam with a delayed follow-up if you're close. Quick step forward or backward. Jump attack. Leaps high into the air and performs a falling slam. Dash or roll forward as it passes over you. Phase 1. Strategy. The Cleric Beast has 2 targetable points on its body. One mid-abdomen, and the other its head. The best way to begin the battle is to target the head with gunshots, throwing knives or molotovs to stagger it, and then follow through with a visceral attack. The safest place to stand is directly behind the boss, though be warned that it will occasionally rotate its upper body and strike beside and behind it with its arms. By standing back just for enough to avoid these swings, you can attack the boss as it recovers from its actions, or attempt to turn toward you. Most of the Cleric Beast's heavy attacks have forward momentum and will always connect if you attempt to evade by backing up. Instead, quick step forward or sideways in the opposite direction of the swing. Due to the boss's hunched posture, rolling or quick-stepping through its legs is impossible most of the time. The best approach is to fight it without locking on and evade its close-range attacks by hiding behind it, where it will have trouble hitting you. Standing directly in front of it places you in range of its fastest attacks and should be avoided if at all possible. Although doing so will often trigger its slow grab attacks and provides you with opportunities to hit its head with your melee weapons. If you need to heal, back off and put as much distance as possible between yourself and the boss. If you're far enough away to be out of its reach of its jump attacks, there's nothing it can do to prevent you from using your blood vials. Phase 2. Strategy. When its health has been reduced to 70%, the Cleric Beast will roar, announcing the start of Phase 2. From this point onward, it will begin attacking more aggressively with longer combos and lunges, and striking its head becomes much harder. You can still hit it with oil urns and molotovs during its recovery periods, dealing large amounts of damage from outside of its melee range. If you have any throwing knives, you can use them to deal damage from a safe distance. The Cleric Beast will begin using stronger variations of its grab and combo attacks during this phase, but you can avoid them in the same manner as Phase 1. And due to the boss's more frequent attacks and erratic movement during Phase 2, locking onto it in close combat can decrease your ability to keep track of it and evade its attacks. If you experience this problem, continue fighting while locked off. Father Gascoigne, a lone person standing in a graveyard among the whirling ashes, he's bloodied hunter. He looks like an experienced veteran, but details are unknown. The dingy scarf is a holy shawl and symbol of the healing church from which Gascoigne would eventually part ways. Father is a title used for clerics in a foreign land, and there is no such rank in the healing church. Gascoigne exhibits great strength in battle and has an imposing height, towering over the hunter. He is dressed in a typical attire of healing church. Preparation. Leveling up before facing Gascoigne is a very good idea. To do so, you'll need to get at least 1 point of insight before returning to the hunter's dream. The doll will then be available to use. If you're having trouble, increase your vitality. Every level up will raise your defense, but raising your vitality will also increase your HP for extra survivability. You should also fully explore Central Yarnum in order to find 8 bloodstone shards. You can use these at the workbench in the Hunter's Dream to upgrade your weapon to +2, greatly increasing your damage. If you don't have any Molotovs for Phase 3, consider buying some from the workshop. Finally, make certain that you've started the little girl's quest and received the tiny music box from her. This can be used to stun Gascoigne during the fight. Before the fight, equip your tiny music box and Molotovs in your quick items, as well as throwing knives if you choose to use them. It's recommended to remove other items so that they don't get in the way during the battle. If you've done all of this and are still having trouble, you can stockpile blood echoes safely between the Central Yarnum lamp and the dog kennels. Every additional point of vitality will help. You can also go online and use a beckoning bell to summon another player for help at the cost of 1 point of insight. Overview. You'll face Father Gascoigne after crossing Central Yarnum's lower bridge. During Phase 1, he will attack you with his Hunter Axe and Hunter Blunderbuss. He uses the normal Hunter Axe moveset with a couple of additions, such as Rising Shear. He will also shoot at you when you are at medium range. Be warned that he will sometimes shoot at you if you dodge backwards away from his melee. After losing 20% of his health, he can transform his weapon to begin Phase 2. Sometimes the timing of this transformation varies. He likes to have some space before he extends his axe. His attacks are a bit slower in this phase, but he has a lot more range. His spin slash hits twice, so be careful when dodging forward. He will start using jumping attacks to close the distance, but be warned that, unlike a player using the hunter axe, he can still shoot you. After losing 70% of his health, he will change into a beast, and Phase 3 begins. He will become very fast and aggressive, but he gains weaknesses to both fire and saw attacks. Strategy. During his first phase, quick-stepping and using charged attacks is a good idea until you're familiar with Gascoigne's attacks. Use interrupts when up close once you begin to recognize his slower attacks. When he transforms his weapon, you can switch to using your throwing knives to move him into Phase 3 of the fight. While he's transforming, use a Molotov, and then use the environment and the music box to slow him down while you finish him with more Molotovs. Environment. The graves and trees can get in the way of your attacks and movement, but Gascoigne can get stuck on them as well. There are also stairs that lead up to an upper terrace, a clear, open space with plenty of room for you to move, and there's a broken rail that will allow you to jump down to heal when needed. Where you choose to fight Gascoigne should be based on which aspect of the fight causes you the most trouble. If you're getting stuck on obstacles, fighting upstairs may be better for you. If his gunshots are more annoying to deal with, having the trees and graves to block them may be more valuable. Be warned that in Phase 3, Gascoigne can destroy the small graves with his attacks. The large, central monument can still be used to slow him down, however. Gascoigne as an old hunter summon. He can be summoned by the fountain past the burning effigy the townsfolk gather around. He will use the silencing blank if you try to enter the sewer. Requirement. You can summon him before you initiate the Father Gascoigne boss battle. But after you start the boss battle against him, he can no longer be summoned for the Cleric Beast fight. Notes. Despite Father Gascoigne having 999 slow poison and rapid poison resistances, he is still vulnerable to such status. All enemies and bosses, except hunter enemies, have 999 frenzy resistance. Despite this, they are still vulnerable to such status. The only way to see it without modding is to use the Shaman Bone Blade on enemies inflicting frenzy to attack others. Use the tiny music box. You can use this item you got from Young Girl to stunlock Gascoigne, making him vulnerable for a moment. But beware, if you use it 3 times in his human form, he will immediately transform in no regards to his remaining HP. In his beast form, you can use it once, then he will ignore it for the rest of the fight. Father Gascoigne makes a different dying sound if you kill him before he transforms into a beast. If you defeat Father Gascoigne, a lamp tomb of Odin will appear in which you will warp to the hunter's dream. During the Alpha, Father Gascoigne is found for the first time in Yharnam, at the beginning of the bridge where the Cleric Beast is fought. If the player approaches him, he will help the player against 2 Scourge Beasts. Attack patterns in human form: Scattergun Burst, quick step forward through it; Horizontal Chop, quick step in the opposite direction of the swing; Spark Uppercut, interrupt it or quick step sideways; Jump Attack, interrupt it or quick step forward or sideways; Charged Spin, used after transforming his axe, identical to the player version of the charged R2, quick step backwards. Attack patterns in beast form: Aerial Dive, leaps high into the air, hovers momentarily, and drives the player's current location. Roll backwards from him. Downward Slam, raises arms slowly and slams the ground. Strafe backward and interrupt it or quick step forward past it. Claw Combo, fast hits with heavy forward momentum. Quick step forward or sideways and strafe behind him. Howl, not an offensive move, mainly an opportunity for the player to get a few free hits in or oil him. Phase 1 Strategy. During Phase 1, focus on quick-stepping through Gascoigne's attacks and counter-attacking him with R1 to L1 combos. You should dodge toward Gascoigne so that you pass through his attacks and get behind him. The R1 will cause him to flinch, and the L1 will cause him to stumble. After the L1, be ready to roll towards him again. After a slight pause, the will either attack you again or quick step and shoot his gun. Roll through his attack or his bullets to attack him again, but don't bother trying to continue the combo after the first L1. Sometimes you can, but he will often quick step back and shoot you out of it. If he hits you once or twice, back off and heal. If you stay in the lower area, try to position a tree or a large tombstone between you and Gascoigne. If on the upper level, drop down on the small roof to heal, then drop down to the ground and head back upstairs. When attacking, stay close so that he doesn't shoot often. When healing, make sure that you have cover to block bullets. One attack to watch out for is the Rising Shear. It's slightly slower than his normal attacks, so you need to dodge forward a bit later. An alternate strategy for this phase is to shoot him during his attacks for an interrupt. When he staggers after the first attempt, you can use a visceral attack to deal a lot of damage quickly. If you are confident in your timing, this is an easy way to win. Phase 2 Strategy. Phase 2 is largely the same as Phase 1. You fight him in the same way, but there are a couple of new attacks to watch out for. His jumping attack is used from long range and hits hard, so either stay close or be ready to dodge. His spin attack hits twice in the area around him, so you need to dodge either backwards or out of its range, or forward through the attack. Once again, gunshot interrupts are a viable alternate strategy. Just remember that the timing will be slightly later since he's holding the two-handed version of the axe. You can also back off a bit and use throwing knives if you like, since he shoots less often during this phase. The downside of this tactic is that it puts you in range from which he likes to use his jumping attack. If you keep space behind you to dodge backwards, this can be okay. Consider fighting upstairs if you want to use this method. Phase 3 Strategy. Phase 3 will begin with his transformation. Use your tiny music box just as the transformation ends. He will stumble before finally roaring and shaking himself loose from the stun. While he's stunned, quickly use your Molotovs, making sure you're locked on and not too far away. 2 Molotovs will greatly weaken him. If you manage to land 3, he will nearly be dead. To finish Gascoigne off, there are 3 main strategies: running away and using items, dodging through his attacks and striking him from behind, and using gunshot interrupts. If you choose to run away and use Molotovs and throwing knives, try to use the large central monument to slow him down, and only throw an item when he's recovering from a missed attack. Option 2 is to stay close, as in Phase 2, if he lands his downward slam, be prepared to dodge past him instead of away. This will position you well, and also prevent him from punishing your escape with a jump attack. Additionally, try baiting Gascoigne to do his claw combo and immediately circle around to your right to reach his back. You're safe behind him once he initiates the combo, which provides you plenty of opportunity to heal or get damage in. If you have a quick weapon, you can easily land a charged R2 attack from this strategy, followed by a visceral attack for major damage. The final strategy is by far the most risky. Gascoigne can be interrupted using gunshots in this phase, but he is so fast and aggressive that one miss can end your life. This method is stylish, but not for the faint of heart. If you do get hit, remember the monument or the drop to the roof, as always, to buy time and heal. Father Gascoigne is voiced by Connor Byrne. The blood-starved beast. Deformed, its skin peeled off and hanging from the back. The beast is basted with blood, but still thirsty for more. Hard to say why it became this way, but its erratic and nimble movements make it hard to fight. This malformed beast has had all the skin peeled off its back, making for a truly gruesome sight. Much like the Cleric Beast, the blood-starved beast also has a malnourished and almost skeletal appearance. Known for its unquenchable thirst for blood. Therefore, instead of devouring the flesh of its prey, the blood-starved beast sucks their blood completely. Preparation. Weapons that inflict bonus damage against beasts, such as the saw spear and the saw cleaver, are useful for this battle. So upgrading one beforehand is a good idea. If you haven't already obtained the flame sprayer from Gilbert in Central Yarnum, be sure to do so. It's also well worth making a side trip to the Hemwick Woods to pick up some bone marrow ash. Pungent blood cocktails are an extremely effective tool in this fight. Be sure you have your weapon upgraded to +3 by this point. There are numerous bloodstone shards available in Old Yarnum and the Cathedral Ward. Fire paper is extremely helpful for increasing the damage of your melee attacks. Also, be sure your weapon is slotted with blood gems for maximum damage, such as the red jeweled brooch found in the Tomb of Odin. If you've already met Alfred in the Cathedral Ward and exhausted his dialogue, you'll be able to summon him outside the church to assist you during the battle. Overview. The blood-starved beast resides in the abandoned Church of the Good Chalice in Old Yarnum. During Phase 1, it moves very slowly and isn't very aggressive. It will spend most of its time strafing sideways or walking toward you and will occasionally perform a basic claw swipe or lunging slash. Phase 2 begins when its health drops below 70%, at which point it will roar and cover itself in a permanent aura that adds extremely potent, slow poison buildup to all of its melee attacks. It fights more aggressively during this phase and will begin sprinting towards you to use its claw attacks. It will also start using a fast lunging grab attack that can reach you from far away. In addition to its Phase 1 attack chains, it will perform a more rep 5-hit combo. When you reduce its health to 30%, it will initiate a Phase 3 with its Poison Blast attack, which causes it to continuously emit a toxic mist that builds up slow poison if you stand too close. It will become even more aggressive and unpredictable during this phase, relentlessly chasing you down and attacking you with long combos. Its grab attack is much more common and will use its poison blast at regular intervals when its toxic proximity effect wears off. Strategy. The most effective ways to defeat the blood-starved beast involve exploiting its severe weakness against fire. Reduce its health to about 80% with melee attacks, then strike it with an oil urn and wait for it to use its slow combo. When it does, interrupt it and immediately hit it with a Molotov instead of performing a visceral attack. The combination of damage bonuses from the oil status and the staggered state enable this simple technique to inflict a tremendous amount of damage. The flame sprayer is equally effective when used in a similar manner. Strike the boss with an oil urn, then use a pinch of bone marrow ash and wait for it to perform an attack with a long recovery period. When it does, move in and strafe it with your flame sprayer to deal heavy damage in seconds. The blood-starved beast can be trivialized with the right consumable setup. He is susceptible to pungent blood cocktails and can easily be lured into a corner. Use fire paper on your weapon and toss a pungent blood cocktail into the corner of a room. You'll have several seconds to freely attack the beast before you need to toss another cocktail. Otherwise, staying very close to the boss and circling to the left can avoid all of the blood-starved beast's attacks. Attacking it from behind while it's recovering from its own attack is ideal. It has no back attacks to punish you. Environment. The church battlefield consists of a long rectangular nave with aisles on both sides and a semicircular ambulatory at the far end. The nave is a large and open area, providing plenty of room to fight on the even ground. The ambulatory surrounds an altar, which can be used for cover, but the narrow aisles restrict your evasive ability, and the pillars around them don't provide much safe cover. In general, keep the fight to the length of the nave so that you have plenty of room to dodge. Use the altar to obstruct the boss if you need time to heal, but try to stay out of the aisles. If you run out of antidotes, you can obtain 3 more from a corpse behind the altar. Old Hunter summons. Old Hunter Alfred, found in the courtyard right before the boss battle. His summon sign is on the bottom of the stairs as you enter the courtyard. Requirements. You must have spoken to Alfred and agreed to cooperate with him. If you shift time into night, Alfred moves from his new position outside the Forbidden Woods. His summon sign will disappear and won't be available for the boss fight. Notes. During Blood-Starved Beast grab attack animation, damage cannot be reduced by repeatedly pressing buttons. Despite the Blood-Starved Beast having 999 slow poison resistance, it is still vulnerable to such status. All enemies and bosses, except hunter enemies, have 999 frenzy resistance. Despite that, they are still vulnerable to such status. The only way to see it without modding is to use Shaman Bone Blade on enemies to inflict frenzy to attack others. After defeating Blood-Starved Beast, an elevator will unlock in the Cathedral Ward, Odin Chapel, which will lead to the Healing Church Workshop. You can summon Alfred, Hunter of the Vile Bloods, for this boss fight. blood-starved beast in Hunter's Nightmare can be lured outside of the cave anywhere it can fit. And it is hostile to most of the inhabitants. In various root dungeons, you can rarely come across a roaming version which will act as a strong enemy on your way to the lair boss. Attack patterns. Phase 1. Lunging slash. Delayed long-range lunge. Quick step forward or to the left. Slow combo. Up to 3 hits with long range, but slow startup. Quick step forward past it, or right side of it, and strafe clockwise at close range. Fast combo. Up to 3 hits with quick startup and long reach. Quick step forward past it. Attack patterns. Phase 2. Poison grab. Lunging mid to long range grab. Extremely quick and inflicts slow poison. Quick step forward or sideways. Rage combo. Up to 5 rapid hits with extremely quick startup. Quick step forward. Attack patterns. Phase 3. Poison blast. Large spherical attack. Inflicts damage and generates an aura that builds up slow poison. Avoid staying near it. Jump combo. Mid-range jump followed by 2 quick slashes. Quick step forward past it. Phase 1 strategy. The blood-starved beast is most vulnerable during the first phase due to its slow movement and minimal aggression. You can avoid all of its attacks by circling clockwise around it at a very close distance, or quick-stepping to be safe. Beware that both its slow and fast combos can clip you if you're too close to an attack before the combo finishes. If you're using a fast weapon, you can employ a charged R2 attack from behind, followed by a visceral attack. If you're confident with your timing, you can interrupt all of the blood-starved beast's attacks. Just be aware that doing so later on in the fight can be extremely risky. Remember to stay close and take advantage of his scream that signals Phase 2. A few R1 hits for a charged R2 to the back can add some significant damage. Phase 2 strategy. Watch out for the boss's grab during this phase, and try to avoid being hit. Even a glancing blow from its claws will inflict an enormous amount of slow poison buildup. Watch for it to stop walking and stare forward for a moment. That signals an oncoming grab attack. You can still avoid all of its attacks by rotating or quick-stepping past it in a clockwise direction. Do your best to stay behind it, as it cannot reach you in this position. Continue using pungent blood cocktails to lure it into a vulnerable area, or punish its attacks from behind. Be aware of the scream that signals Phase 3, and punish it appropriately with a charged R2 from behind, and a visceral attack, or several R1 attacks Phase 3 Strategy. Your priority during this phase is to finish the boss as quickly as possible, though you'll need to pay careful attention to the attacks in order to avoid being poisoned or grabbed. Make every effort to stay behind the boss and don't get greedy with your melee attacks. Attempting to interrupt it during this phase is extremely risky due to its unpredictability. As in the previous phases, you can avoid all of its attacks with very close clockwise rotation or quick steps. But be aware of its poison aura if it has successfully used Poison Blast. When the blood-starved beast retreats and begins emitting jets of brown mist, it is readying its Poison Blast. While this move has heavy super armor, you can cancel it by repeatedly striking the boss's head with quick R1 attacks, or landing a charged R2 from behind, followed by a visceral attack. Pungent blood cocktails still affect the blood-starved beast in this phase, so use them if necessary for some free damage.